Hi there, I'm Haruka, and I'm not wearing pants. Back when I was prepping and brainstorming new ideas, the MLB was in a lockout. Basically, the owners were paying the big players too much and the smaller players too little, so the union was fighting for a living wage for the smaller players while the owners were getting hit with the consequences of their own actions on the top end. It looked like this was an unsolvable situation with the owners' refusal to give a good deal to the players, but on March 10th, about a week after most of spring training was canceled, a deal was made. So while this was happening, I sort of assumed that the owners weren't actually coming to the table with a fair deal and figured the lockout would continue. So I thought it would be fun to suggest some baseball anime to those who wanted baseball with the MLB gone. But even with the MLB back, I still want to talk about a bunch of baseball anime that I'm interested in. I've said before that I'm incredibly harsh on soccer anime, but somehow I'm the opposite with baseball, where I am fine with whatever. To the point where I've sat through some pretty horrible anime and had no problem with them. I think that comes from baseball being easier to recreate cinematically than soccer. While I think that soccer is much more visually interesting, that makes it harder to animate well. And while the concepts and tactics in soccer are fun to me, those concepts are incredibly hard to explain in a way where everyone gets it quickly. Baseball, on the other hand, is a game that is simple enough on the surface that you can make it as complicated as you want when writing it. And the 1v1 nature of the pitcher versus the batter just makes it so much more personal. And sports anime's tendency to have everyone stop and talk all the time just makes more sense when waiting for a pitcher to throw. So while I love soccer and am actually fairly disinterested in watching real life baseball, I love baseball anime more than any soccer anime, though that does say more about soccer anime than baseball anime. Anyway, here's the anime. First, I'll give you some shows that I've actually seen and want to talk about. Taisho Yakyuu Musume. If you remember my baseball video from last year, you may remember that baseball came to Japan in 1872 from an American professor. I used a picture of the American teacher in this anime who ended up as the team's manager. Basically, it's about a girl in 1925 who decides to clap back against a misogynistic kid by starting a girls' baseball team. It's a pre-moe ensemble show about all these girls learning about the game and working to prove that they are more than what society views them as. Tamayomi. This is just a cute story about a pitcher and a catcher who were childhood friends but ended up at different junior highs, only to find each other again at an all-girls high school. The show takes an interesting approach to school sports as it approaches surprising topics like hazing, sabermetrics, and the glory of drag bunting. You also may have heard of this because it was the legendary show that accidentally sent out the wrong cut for episode 3 to Funimation, and we got some ugly animation. The animation was rough to begin with, and that was literally the rough cut. And ironically, the real episode was only available through Kiss Anime. Rest in peace. It's disappointing because while the relationship drama was pretty boring, the concepts that it tried to bring to the table were commendable. Princess 9 Kisaragi Joshiko Yakyubu. This is one of the first anime I ever watched, and it is admittedly rough. It's from 1998, which you can argue had only a handful of anime that would stand the test of time, but while the animation was very of its time and the acting was concerning in both the dub and the original, there was something about the story that hooked me. It's an ensemble piece about a school with an already successful boys baseball team putting together a girls baseball team, led by Ryo, who is the daughter of a legendary pitcher with a cannon arm of her own. She gets involved with a rivalry / love triangle / recruitment battle with Izumi, a tennis prodigy and daughter of the school's chairperson who happens to have the bat of Albert Pujols thanks to her tennis training. This show is the prime example of the fact that the best kind of sports show doesn't need to have a plot driven by sports at all, but by developing characters and their relationships. Hachigatsu no Cinderella 9. So when I got into anime through Princess 9, I found out that there was a brand new anime coming out with a similar name and a similar premise. So I thought it would be just as good. It was not. But somehow it was rated higher than Tamayomi. Anyway, it's another ensemble show where some girls start a baseball team that's based on a mobile game. I want to play the mobile game. I can't find it. The thing is that it's very much an idol type cute girls try sports show that I don't really like. You got a lot of episodes devoted to learning the game and too many characters introduced to really make things feel cohesive. But it is cute, so you gotta give it that. Guruzeni. I have already made an entire video about Guruzeni, which is possibly one of the most subversive shows in all of sports anime. It follows a middle relief pitcher struggling to survive in the world of professional baseball. If you want more on why I love it so much, go watch that old video. Classics I should probably watch and you should be aware of too. Cross Game. From a certain mangaka whose name will come up a couple more times in this video, it's a love story where the girl pretty much teaches the dude how to be a better pitcher. I haven't seen it, I'm just guessing from what I'm reading, but I do know that it's highly regarded among anime in general, not just sports anime. Mix. From the same mangaka, Mitsuru Adachi, who has written so many baseball manga, this time it's a sequel to something he wrote 30 years prior. The story appears to follow a pitching battery of two step bros working their way to Koshien. Why does this say romance, and what are you doing, step bro? Roll Tide. Major. Finally not an Adachi joint, this series has been going since 2004 and has not only had an absurd amount of seasons, but also has an entire sequel series. Conceptually, both sides of the series follow a player from high school into the pros as they try to play baseball to fulfill their father's dream, like Jordan. And also the girls play too, and I think that's neat because technically girls were banned at Koshien until literally last year. Diamond no Ace. Classic shonen hype sports about a guy who ends up at the best baseball school and works together with his friends to win at Koshien. Seriously, I have no other information I can give you that you wouldn't already understand with that description. 1 ounce. I've been suggested this anime multiple times but can never get myself into wanting to watch it, but it is very different from traditional sports anime. It takes the concept of baseball being a 1v1 sport and amplifies it, with the main character being a fairly average pitcher who just has an incredible amount of gamesmanship when on the mound. Now for weird stuff I found while researching. Kitsune no Homuranu O. Released in 1949, this is the oldest baseball anime. Just a fun fact for you. A fox is at bat, but he loses because he's too horny. Kyojin no Hoshi. One of the earliest baseball anime series, starting in 1968, even before the original Dororo. It was directed by Tadao Nagahama, who would become known for his sheer versatility as a director, taking on the shoujo classic Versailles no Bara, as well as mecha cult classic Voltes 5. Unfortunately, he died just as career was taking off in 1980. The show itself is about a kid who wants to avenge his father who was injured in the war by becoming the baseball player he wasn't able to be. He joins the Tokyo Giants, which is the Japanese equivalent to the Yankees. It's just one of those classics that no modern weeb is gonna know, but actual Japanese people who probably aren't even interested in anime will probably know, kind of like GGG no Kitaro, which came out around the same time. Shorei no Toshu. This is a movie from 1987 that I absolutely need to find and watch somehow, about a girl who becomes the pitcher for a professional baseball team. And not a fake team, she was on the Chunchi Dragons, a real team, and all the players on the team were real players at the time. This is not a suggestion, this is literally me just showing you guys the weird process I go through to find old forgotten anime. This was actually made by Toei Animation and appears to be the first test for Hiroki Shibata, who would take a few more unsuccessful stabs at directing until finally being relegated to just an episode director on much of Sailor Moon, until finally breaking through with directing Bo 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 before disappearing right back into the night. Moshidora, another one that I just really want to watch, but this one isn't too hard to find as it's from 2011. A girl gets forced into being the manager for her school's baseball team, and she knows nothing about baseball, so she gets a book out of the library about management. But the book is about how to manage a business, not how to manage a baseball team. But, you know, she makes it work. It sounds stupid and like it will go absolutely nowhere, and now I need it in my life. It was also directed by the same guy who directed Prince of Tennis. Batsu Toteri. Onto even weirder stuff, somehow in the same year as Shorei no Toshu, someone was able to make a whole ass movie about a couple of tough guys who go to break up a violent gang and save a pretty girl. And they just so happen to be the pitcher and catcher on a high school baseball team. Why did Sunrise make this? Tribe 9. And even more wild, this anime came out earlier in the year about extreme baseball. It's baseball, but extreme. Think about all those old SNES sports games that were actually just side-scrolling brawlers, and that's what this anime is. Man, baseball is just as weird as the rest of anime and has just as wide a range in terms of being good or bad, but you can tell I tolerate a whole lot more from the bad side of baseball anime. In other baseball media, I just want to shout out the K-drama Hot Stove League, which is about a guy who is hired as the GM of a baseball team, but he has no experience with baseball. But he does have experience coming into a new sport, turning a team he's running into champions, and then having them fold immediately after the season. So it's fun. It's on Netflix, but you gotta have like an Australian VPN. Yeah, that's all I got for this one. I got a whole new lineup of videos getting ready to come out over the summer, and someday I'll have enough money to get an editor so I can make more videos with less hassle. Speaking of needing money, this video is actually sponsored by Lucky Cat Sticker Company. Go buy some damn stickers. Slap them on your laptop, slap them on your car, slap them on your own damn face. I don't care. Go to luckycatsclub.com and enter the code JOCK for 15% off. Again, that is JOCK JOCK for 15% off on luckycatsclub.com. Link in the description. Thank you.